Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's webinar with Think Smart, Think Brailliant, the new version 2.0.0. We've got a full packed webinar to talk about today. So we're going to have a look at the overview of what's new, what's coming into this new version of 2.0, followed then by some demonstrations. Peter will be demonstrating some parts of the new features as well as myself. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some Q&A as normal. I think the big question is when will this version be available, right? And as of May the 19th, there are some Brailliants that have been shipped to clients. So I want to make sure that we're very transparent here, that there are some units that are being shipped with version 2 software installed in their Braille display. So if you have only just received your Braille display, more than likely that version 2 will be on there. For those that have already got a Brailliant 20 or Brailliant 40, prior to that May the 19th, the version 2 update will be coming shortly. We just need to make it ready to make sure that it's make all the security changes in our servers that host the update so that everyone can download that safely. So we do believe it's very soon. I haven't got an exact date, but I believe it's within a week or so. So it won't be long. And you'll be able to get hold of that version 2. So just to confirm, there are some units out there that has the version 2 installed. So what is actually new? Some quick overview here. So we have in the editor, we've made some added some new features here, one called the recently saved files, and we'll go into a bit more detail on that one. We've added toggle text indicators. This is the annoying brackets that some people do not like to have. You know, certainly when we look on a 20-cell Braille display, we want to make use of all our Braille cells. So there is an option to hide those brackets in the editor. In the terminal, we've got a new method to activate your Bluetooth pairing. We've got new methods of switching between connected devices, and there's been some general improvements in the connectivity, and more will be revealed under some user settings. So those user settings, we have a few options here. We have a disable Perkins keyboard option, ask to open USB connection, and for the Mantis, we have a key repeat option as well. And we have a new Keysoft application called Braille Editor Keybar F, and this will allow you to open, create, and edit Braille files. And in the Victor Reader, we now have support for unprotected DAISY 2 and DAISY 2.02 audio files. So we have finally released some audio capabilities, and we do have something secret to tell you in just a moment as well, and you know, the next steps of audio. And some lastly, other general fixes, we've got some quick navigations between applications. So for those that remember the Apex style navigation in Keysoft, you can jump from app to app. We've introduced a method that allows you to switch between applications on the fly. An option of starting up in terminal mode is now available from the initial startup. Several people complained of freezing issues in the editor, and we'd like to think we've addressed those issues. There's been some item names changed from what was called Braille Profile. So this is where you select all of your tables, whether you're using contracted or uncontracted. That name has now changed to Language Profile. And we've replaced some beeps with some better sound quality, so sounds and messages. In terms of languages, we've included on the Brailliant BIX series, we've included Hebrew and Ukrainian, and the Mantis Q40, we have introduced Polish. So one of the next questions that probably many of you be asking, because obviously we're introducing audio capabilities, and you know, rumor has it about text to speech. So when will text to speech be ready? Well, the exciting news is today we're going to be demonstrating.
Oh, hold on, Andrew. Andrew, hang on. I got to take a sip of my slush puppy here, man. Hold on. Sorry, I just had to do that. It's perfect timing. Go ahead, Andrew.
So one of you got me off track now. So yeah, one of the things we're going to showcase today is text-to-speech. So I want to make it clear that version 2.0.0 will not have text-to-speech, okay? It will have audio capabilities, so playback in unsupported DAISY books. However, text-to-speech will be available 2 months from the official launch, okay? So we will be updating all of the Brailliant BIX 20s and 40s. We'll be able to push another update in 2 months' time when the text-to-speech engine is fully ready. Okay, so but we will give you a sneak preview on text-to-speech. We felt that it's a good time to give you a demonstration with the text-to-speech. I think you'll learn more than for us just to show a picture and just talk over the top of hands and Braille keyboards. So hopefully you'll have a better experience. However, I am having difficulties having to share my audio. Peter's managed to crack it, but for some reason I'm struggling to share my audio, but we'll get through this. So without further ado, let's see some in action. So Peter, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about some of the additional editor settings that we talked about, recently saved, the text indicators for them by some global shortcuts that we've introduced. So over to you, Peter.
Thanks so much, Andrew. And I am ready for this. I'm actually going to turn my speech on in a moment, and for the sake of demonstration, you'll be able to hear what the device is saying, which will also be exactly what the Braille display is showing. So it makes demonstrating the product a heck of a lot easier than previously, where I would just have to tell you and you'd have to trust me when I said, well, I'm currently reading such and such on my Braille display. So we are very much looking forward to that. Now, what I am going to do is demonstrate a couple of new features that are added to the editor. And to turn, the first thing I will do, so again, 2 months from the official release, and that official release will be when the over-the-air update is released. As Andrew pointed out, in full, being as transparent as possible, some units that are shipping as we get through our back order situations and units ship out, there will be units hitting the field that could very much in a day or two kind of be ahead of time and sort of coinciding with the over-the-air update. So somebody may find someone on a user list that says, this Braille editor that I have, and somebody out there who's had a unit for 1.5 years will say, what Braille editor? I don't have that in it. We don't want that to kind of promote any confusion. There certainly will be some server maintenance and things going on our end, and that over-the-air update will come. Once the over-the-air update is available, text-to-speech will be launched 2 months from that date. I am on the main menu, and just so you get a sense of what this will sound like, I am going to press space with my previous thumb key to turn on text-to-speech. Again, 2 months after that over-the-air update is here, and I'm going to share my screen because it would help a lot if I do that. I'm going to do this, and we're going to share sound. And we will hear this. Andrew can confirm if I am sharing my sound here. Let's see. I don't know why I'm not.
Not at the moment, Peter.
Hold on. Faith and confidence, Andy. All right, I'm going to mute my JAWS. All right. Now, I'm going to press space with my previous thumb key, and I'm on the main menu, and it will magically do that. And you certainly should have heard it say speech on, followed by the word terminal. So
nope, I have, Peter.
Well, sounds like we're all just, hold on, we'll try it one more time. Otherwise, we're just going to have to pretend that we faked everybody out and we don't have speech because I hear it in my ear. So hang on. And I'm in a hotel room, so I don't have my normal mixer. Give me 1 second. And we'll try this again. Share sound is checked. All right. It's just like me with my slush puppy joke. I maybe myself out. Okay.
There we go. I think I heard something there.
We're gonna mute JAWS. Speech on demand. All right, now we're gonna turn speech on. Take 2 by pressing space with the previous thumb key. This is the same command we have used in Keysoft for the past many years, and this will
speech.
There we go. You got it.
On our speech. You know, it just takes a little. You know, we haven't done this long enough, Andrew. It's only been a bunch of years. So I'm going to demonstrate these various features with speech on for the sake of not only showing you that we will have speech in 2 months from the over-the-air update, but also so you can better hear how the device will behave and kind of you'll know what to expect, and you won't have to trust me saying things. Now, I am on the main menu. I want to talk about some new settings that have been introduced in the editor that Andrew alluded to earlier. I'm going to press the letter E to move over to editor.
Editor, keypad.
And I'm going to press enter or a cursor router key to open this up.
Close.
Now, I'm in the menu and I will have various pieces here. So let's
recently saved.
Come here and we will come down underneath the option to open. We now have a piece here that says recently saved. And what happens is if we activate this option, again, it's just in your editor, you'll have create, then open, and then recently saved. When I activate this, you're going to see a list of documents you've recently worked with. So I'm going to press enter here.
Through the day.txt.
All right, through the day.txt, right? Real valid file name for something. I think I just made these as an example. If I press my space bar again, we'll kind of see the frame of mind I was in.
Coffee.txt.
Coffee.txt. A lot of times, if you've ever been in my workshops or done a lot of these webinars with me, you know, everything is always happy or good times or all sorts of things. For whatever reason, this one, we just have coffee and through the day, right? So we're getting through it.
Close.
I have, again, those were just 2 files I had recently worked with. I'm going to activate close here.
Recently
and come
saved.
back into my editor menu. So you do have a recently saved option that will let you view files you've recently worked with. Andrew, do you know what how many files that will show?
It will save up to 10 files.
That's what I thought. So it's your 10 most recent documents that you have worked with will be in the recently saved list. So that is something we've added, again, thanks to your user feedback. The other thing that we've added, and this actually came up in the Facebook group a week ago or so, somebody had asked, well, I have a 20-cell Brailliant, and when I create a file, I don't want the first and 20th cell to be taken up by the beginning and end of document brackets. So the 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, and sort of beginning of document symbol, and the 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 end of document symbol that's there. If you come in below recently saved, we have
editor settings,
which has been around for a while. And this is where you go to turn on or off confirm deletion. But if I press enter here,
confirm delete on.
We still have this option of confirm delete. I can always toggle this with a cursor router key. And what that is if you're in a document, you have text selected, do you want it to ask you, are you sure you want to delete this text? Can be very important because if you accidentally delete something, it will be gone. But if it's a failsafe saying, are you really sure you want to do this? You might want to actually have that pop up to make sure you don't inadvertently delete something. If I press my space bar on my next thumb key though,
show text editor indicators off.
We have an option here that says show text editor indicators. It is currently off, meaning I will not have a beginning or end of document symbol on my display when I'm in a new document. That does not apply to password fields. Or if you're using your iOS device, it doesn't apply when you're in terminal mode. This is strictly for the editor. It doesn't apply in the calculator. It applies to the editor specifically and the Braille editor as well, which we'll be talking about. But this is, if you want to toggle this, you can use a cursor router key to either
show text editor indicators on.
Turn that on, or if I press the cursor router key again,
show text editor indicators off.
We can turn it off.
Close.
I'm going to activate the close, or I'm just going to press space with E once I've made that change.
Create file.
And I'm back in my editor keypad menu. So again, 2 new settings here in version 2.0, one being a recently saved option, and the other being an option to turn on and off those document indicators, meaning the beginning and end of your file. All right, let's talk shortcuts.
Terminal.
So we have brought in a large list of shortcuts to make you more efficient while you're using your Brailliant VIX series in version 2.0. These primarily are used to move quickly between your internal apps. So you're in the editor and you quickly want to move over to the terminal, or in your Victor Reader and you want to move over to the calculator, and so on. And I'm going to go through some of these. We will have snapshot tutorials that walk you through these features. They are found on our support page under video tutorials. They will be there. So on the VIX series support page. We're going to start with one that actually is not about moving between apps. It's actually a command that has been asked for by a lot of users who are maybe our trainers and really want to demonstrate the device in various places. And they need a quick way. Maybe they're not the most confident Braille readers. They don't know if they're at terminal and go to find out how do they get the device in pairing mode? What do they do? Well, we've made a global command where you press and hold your enter key, or .8, for about, for 5 seconds. You'll hear a short beep. a very, very short tone, and you will be placed in your activate mode. So you'll be placed in pairing mode. So I'm going to just hold down my enter key. And what will happen is my device is going to prompt me.
Activate your device and your host device's Bluetooth settings. Brailliant by 40x 654 billion and 19.
This would be where we go to activate. Again, we would find our device on our iPhone and activate the Brailliant, and then we're going to have our Braille display paired. And then we need to go into connected devices and select it. So what this is it's a quick way globally to jump into pairing mode. Very, very helpful if you are needing to pair to somebody's phone at a conference, or you're needing to quickly, you get a new device, or maybe somebody's trying to show something to you and they say, hey, connect your Braille display to my phone real quick. And they'll be like, how do you do that? You'll be like, well, I'm just going to hold down enter and it's going to become discoverable. So a global shortcut for making your Brailliant jump into the discoverable state. I'm going to come back to the main menu.
Terminal.
The other shortcuts here are very much kind of centered around productivity. They will mirror, for those of you who've used Braille Notes for a while, or Braille Note all the way back to the M powers and before, commands to quickly jump between the internal applications. What I mean by that is, if I want to jump into my editor, I'm going to be able to use the letter E combined with backspace and enter. So backspace and enter are the common thread here for these shortcut commands. I'm going to go through a couple of them. Again, I've made a video on this, but enter and backspace, or dots 7 and 8, backspace and enter with E will open my editor.
Create file.
Here I am, it says create file. Backspace enter with C will open my calculator.
Computer Braille required.
Right? So backspace enter E again opens editor, backspace enter C as in calculator will open the calculator. Backspace enter V will open your Victor Reader app. I'm going to do that now, and it's going to jump me into my Victor Reader. Again, this would be if you wanted to quickly load up some books you were reading or whatnot. So backspace enter and V will load that. Backspace enter and T will jump you into terminal mode. And that's a big one because maybe you're reading a book and you want to take a note in your Word document you're connected to or whatnot. Backspace enter with T.
Fun and such.
Jumps me right in here and I'm in my connected devices list. If I was connected, it would actually put me back into terminal mode. I was not looking at a device specifically, but depending on where you are, you're going to be able to use these. One piece here, I'm going to come back and connect to my actual computer. Remember, if you're in terminal mode and you want to get out and look at the editor or Victor Reader, you need to do the bypass command first. So I'm currently working, connected to my computer or my iPhone, and I come across something and think, oh, geez, I better open the calculator because I have these important numbers to crunch. What you need to do is activate the bypass command first, because if you just do backspace enter and C, it's going to push that through to your screen reader, and that won't do you much good. So the bypass command is space 4568, meaning space 456 enter. And then you will read enter local command, where I can press backspace enter and C, and it brings me into my calculator. So again, just keep in mind, when you're in your terminal, you need to do the bypass command first. And that's also, maybe you want to check the time or the date or the battery level of your unit. That bypass command is valid there as well. But if you want to perform one of these usability shortcuts, these kind of making things more efficient, you need to activate that bypass command first when you are in terminal mode, when you're actively working with a host device.
Terminal.
Back on the main menu, a couple more of these. Backspace enter and N is going to move you into the NLS Braille catalog. Backspace enter and B will move you into Bookshare. Backspace enter and W will move you into NFB Newsline. Another command here, there's a full list in release notes, but another one that is very useful is we now have a Braille editor. And this has been asked for a long time. Since the inception of the BIX series, people have said we want to be able to work with an app that allows us to read and write BRF files. And we have that. So it's very much like working on a Braille writer. Whatever you type will stay in Braille. It's not going to convert to text. It's going to stay, if you're writing grade 3, it's going to stay in grade 3. If you're writing music notation or Nemeth code, whatever it is, it's going to stay in Braille. So a great way to take down quick notes, especially for someone like me who's a power Braille user. I don't want things converting to text. And sometimes I do, but I love when I can just get and create and work in BRF documents. So again, it's not just to create, but also to open BRF files. Another command we've added, though, if you want to quickly take a Braille note, so we know that to quickly create a note, we've had this in previous BIX series updates, backspace with N creates a new note in the editor. Now, backspace with B will create a new Braille or a new BRF file. So if I do backspace with B, I'm going to receive a create message quickly, and I'm now placed in a document. Keep in mind, when speech comes, there is no speech in this app because there is nothing to translate to. It's not just going to read random dots and things, especially if you're doing music and other things. It would just sound like craziness. So you don't have speech here in the Braille editor, and that's a good thing because it could get wild, especially when you're writing lots of things. If you want speech, you're going to need to export this, which I'll demonstrate, and turn it into a text file. So again, when you're in the Braille editor, your options are create and open. You also have an editor settings that will look very similar to what we had on the in the text editor, that is. So you can hide your document format markers and whatnot, the beginning and end markers, that is. You can also have a recently saved option. This will allow you to create and edit BRF files. But what I want to demonstrate is, what do you do if you have a file and you think, gosh, I really want to get this to a computer? What can you do, right? I've taken some notes in Braille and I need to make them, I need to turn them into print. You are able to export BRF files, and I will demonstrate how that's done. And show you what that'll look like in text. So I'm currently going to write a sentence in my Braille editor, and I'm writing, this is a file containing Braille. All right, so I'm writing this again in my editor, which does not have text to speech. I'm in my Braille editor, there is no text to speech. In the text editor, there certainly is, which we'll see in a moment. In the Braille editor, there is not, because it's just like working on a piece of Braille paper. What you write in Braille stays in Braille. Now, what I can do is, and again, the save process, exactly the same. You press, say, a space with S to save this. You can name it. If you've already named it, you won't have to name it when you export it. It will keep the same name. But if you export, it will ask you for what you want the file name to be. I am going to export this file. And to do that, again, it's a BRF file. I've typed some notes. I want to export for whatever reason and turn it into text. I press space with the letter M to open the context menu.
File menu.
And again, our menus are spoken because we're out of the Braille editor. So here's the file menu, but I'm going to come down one option here
Edit
to
menu.
the edit menu and press enter.
Find space plus F.
And I'm going to activate, press the letter E, that is, to move my focus to
export as text.
Export as text, and I'm going to press enter. And when I do that, what it's going to do,
select Braille table, Afrikaans Duxbury grade 1.
This will look very similar to what those of you who have currently tried to open BRF files in the editor get. It's going to ask you, what Braille table do you want to use to convert this file to text? Now, by default, it says the first table, which is Afrikaans Duxbury grade 1. If I activate this option, it's going to bring me into a list of all of the Braille tables that I have.
Afrikaans Duxbury grade 1.
Now, I'm in this huge list. I'm going to press the letter E and then my space bar a bunch of times to get down to English, and I'm going to do UEB Duxbury grade 2.
ABU Farm English English UB Duxbury grade 2.
There we go. English UEB Duxbury grade 2. I read it on my display. I press confirm or enter or a cursor router key here.
Select Braille table, English UB Duxbury grade 2.
And you'll hear that this option now says, again, select Braille table, and it's set to the right one. UEB Duxbury grade 2, because that's how I wrote my BRF file. So I need the Braille table to recognize UEB grade 2. If I press my space bar, I have an OK button.
Cancel.
I also have a cancel button here if you want to get back into your BRF file for whatever reason. So I'm going to activate OK.
OK. File name.
And I'm placing the file name edit box, and I'm just going to write export. Now, again, you'll just name this and place it in the same way you would any file you're saving. If you've already named your BRF file, it's just going to give you the same name, but instead of .brf, it will be .txt. So it's going to take the file name. If you haven't named it yet, you can just export and name the file upon doing this. I'm going to press enter.
File exported.
And we get a file exported message, and then I'm placed back in my BRF file. I'm placed back in the Braille editor. But if I come and look, I will see that my TXT version of my file now can be opened, where I can work in the text editor and have text to speech. So the Braille editor is more than just reading and writing in Braille. It does allow you, if desired, to pull text out and bring it into that text editor as a TXT file. It will also allow you to open BRF files. So many of you may have BRF files laying around, probably not really laying around, but sitting in some sort of, oh, I don't know, deep drawer with a lot of thumb drives or whatnot. You can certainly open BRF files in here as well. I'm going to come back to the main menu.
And Peter, just to clarify on that as well, not only can you open BRF files, but you can also open BRL files.
Yes.
When you do open the BRL files, it will, however, convert them to BRF. So you will be working in a BRF environment if you are to open in those BRL files.
Yes, this is correct. And BRL, for those of you who don't, may have not worked with files that were that, it's just another raw sort of Braille file that you may have, especially on older devices, Brailliants and such, that used BRL file extensions. So it's another Braille file format that can be opened. I'm going to talk about another command that's been added before we get into a couple of the user settings. Actually, we'll look at the options first, and then we'll get into the final piece before I throw it over to Andrew. We've added a couple of options, again, just about increasing productivity. We're always asked, and when we build a product, we're asked, when will it be able to, or how do I? And a lot of times when we make a device, we've tried as hard as we can to make a device that will be relevant to somebody who is a 6 or 7 year old learning a device, or somebody who is a 60 or 70 or 95-year-old who's just wanting to read. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all product, and these things need to mature. So we develop and we bring in new features, and a lot of times they become features that certain subsets of users find extremely helpful, and they get used to using their devices in a certain way. And we want to make sure that they have those options, just like everybody else does, to make their device as comfortable as possible. A lot of times, think of the reversing of the thumb keys is something that many people use. I do not, but I have many users who say, I love reversing the thumb keys. I love using, I'm a lefty. I like to advance the Braille display with my left hand, not my right. And we want that to be an option. These two commands that I'm about to show are going to make things a little bit easier, especially when you're using the device in terminal mode. In the options menu, so I'm going to turn my speech on here.
Speech
in the options menu,
Braille Editor,
I'm going to press space with O. So space with O to go into options, which that command has never changed.
User settings.
And we now have something that says user settings, which is common. This isn't a new app or anything here, but we're focused on this now. And I'm going to press enter to open this up, and we're going to see a couple of new options in here down toward the bottom. So once we're in user settings, I am going to come down below
airplane mode off.
Some of the options that are here, which have been here for a long time. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to press 4, 5, 6 with space. And we'll talk about the two new commands that are added.
Close.
So right above the close button, you now have
disable Perkins in terminal off.
You have an option here to disable your Perkins, right? Your Perkins keyboard in terminal mode. This is very useful. So normally at home, I use a desk where my PC is raised above my Braille display, and I have a mixer and all these other things kind of on my desk there to make it easy to work with lots of products. Right now I'm in a hotel room, and my Braille display is entirely flat with the front of my computer, the very front of my laptop. If I reach up to start typing, I have a very good chance of bumping some of the Braille keys on the Braille keyboard, and then it will do all sorts of things that I don't want it to do. So this is an option for the user that is using the device just like this. When you're in terminal mode, you're using, the Perkins keyboard can be disabled so that you can use the device to read with. Again, this is not the command keys. This is not the thumb keys. This is the Perkins keyboard. So if I turn this on,
disable Perkins in terminal on.
Now, every time I press my Braille keyboard when I'm using JAWS or iOS or NVDA, nothing will happen. It's not going to work. It will not allow me to drive the device. It's strictly going to be a reading device at that point. So this is for those individuals who want to work with the device maybe on the same plane as their computer and don't want to necessarily turn their keystrokes into some wild things because they bumped something with the wrist or an elbow or a forearm. It can also be helpful in other situations, but this is one piece we've added. I do not want this.
Disable Perkins in terminal off.
Now, the other option we've added, if I press my previous thumb key, again, we're in the options menu under user settings.
Ask to open USB connection off.
We have an option that will say ask to open USB connection. And this is great for somebody. Again, we talked about a quick way to get your device into Bluetooth pairing mode. Think of this as a similar piece. When you plug in a USB-C cable to a computer, If this option is turned on, you will be asked if you want to open the USB terminal connection. So no matter where you are, you can quickly launch that USB terminal. Every single time you plug in a drive, if you want to, every time you plug in a USB-C cable to your device that's connected to your computer. Again, something that has been asked for by a lot of our users in certain parts of the world where they do a lot of USB terminal connections. You certainly, if you don't have this on and you do plug in a USB cable, you know now that you can press T with backspace and enter and just activate USB. Because again, T with backspace and enter, as in terminal, brings you right into your terminal. So this is another option to make it easier for you to launch your terminal mode. It's something that we know when you're training, time is of the essence, and you just want things to work. Keep in mind, we also have the other option. This is not new, but it ties into
Start in terminal.
The
off.
Start in terminal option, which is located, I just pressed my previous thumb key. It's right above this new ask to open USB terminal. Start in terminal means when your device turns on, it will start right in terminal mode, meaning it's not going to bring you to the main menu. It'll start in the terminal, so you're one step closer to being connected to your preferred device. That is going to be another option that we brought in previously. But again, it's about improving the workflow. We had a lot of users who wanted to more quickly or easily get themselves into terminal mode, just like we have a lot of users who wanted quick ways to jump between all of the different internal apps, or who want to hide a lot of internal apps. You know, on the BIX series, we can turn on or off apps that we don't want on that main menu. So these things are all about customizing and letting the device grow and meet specific needs of specific user groups. All right, one other shortcut command here before I swing things over to Andrew, who will hopefully be able to kind of bring us into some pieces here on the audio support. But I want to demonstrate something that we brought in that will allow us to move between our connected devices. Now,
USB
I'm going to come into the terminal here. This is my phone. It's called Fun and Such. And this is my laptop.
296.
Now, until now, when you wanted to switch devices, what you had to do was you had to, let's say I'm in my host device. I'm working on my iPhone, and all of a sudden I realize, oh, I need to check my email because I just heard an email come in, and I don't want to do it on my phone, because the Mail app, as we know, has some serious wildness with Braille displays in 15.5 or 15.4, or pick an iOS number. And we have some very wild Braille display voiceover issues that we're very hopeful Apple can address. But I don't want to do that on my phone. I want to switch devices. So again, I'm working on my phone. I want to switch to my computer. What I had to do was press the home button. It would bring me back into my connected devices list. And then I had to move to the device I wanted to pick, whether that was first letter navigation or my spacebar or using my next thumb key until I reached it. And then I would press enter and it would switch. Now we have a quick way. And the first stab at becoming more efficient here is, if I am controlling my device as a Braille display, if I press my home button combined with my previous thumb key, I will move to the previous device in my list. If I press the home button with the next thumb key combined, I will move to the next connected device in my list. So right now I'm controlling my computer. If I want to jump up to my phone, I'm going to press home and previous.
Braille display. Braille display.
And it moves me up to Fun and Such. And again, on my Braille display, I read Fun and Such. If you have speech turned off, you're going to read that. Right now it's saying Braille display because my phone is not awake. If I press home and my next thumb key again,
Braille display. Braille display.
It shows me that it's connected to HP, my laptop name here, and then it says Braille display, and it's looking for me to now control my Zoom meeting. So home with next will cycle you forward through your connected devices. Home with previous, again, the previous thumb key is all the way to the left. The next thumb key is all the way to the right. Those commands will move you between your connected devices or your host devices when you're in your Braille terminal. As you know, we have 5 Bluetooth connections and 1 USB connection to move through. So if you have 2 devices, you'll just only have 2 to move through. But if you have all 5, you're going to move through those 5. This is a first crack at this. We know that the preferred way would be for somebody to say, I want to assign channel 3 to my iPhone and channel 2 to something and channel 1 to something else. We are going to work hard to get there. We're going to start here with switching the channels and getting that into the protocol and getting that into what we can do. But certainly it's a step in the right direction, as opposed to having to come back out to the terminal list and find your preferred device. So Again, home with previous moves us back. Home with next moves us forward. Andrew, did I miss anything before I fling it back your way?
Did you mention about the putting your device into Bluetooth discoverable mode? Did you mention that?
You were having your slush puppy, man.
All right. Okay, fair enough.
Yes, these global shortcuts. So
USB connection.
the global shortcuts are
on.
So I guess then it's the Mantis Q40 obviously
Yes.
questions that may be arising. Obviously, the Mantis Q40 will adopt the Braille Editor, right? So, of course, in that situation, when you go into the Braille Editor on a Mantis Q40, you'll automatically be set to use your SDF and JKL keys as your input. So you will not be able to use your QWERTY keys to input in your Braille Editor on the Mantis. It'll automatically convert you into your Braille inputs mode straight away. The other mention here is the key repeat. So that's another option in the Mantis Q40. So in the Mantis Q40 under user settings, you will not have the disable Braille keyboard. However, you will have a key repeat option that you can toggle between on and off. And what that will do, it will allow you to repeat certain keys. Now, these keys include the up, down, left, right arrows, the backspace key, and the delete key. And I think it's the space key as well. So basically, you can press and hold, and it will just continuously just repeat. So there's a couple of things there. I think you didn't mention there, Peter. Unless I was eating my slush puppy again, or drinking my slush puppy again.
Do you eat or drink a slush
puppy? Well, it depends how icy it is.
Depends how fresh it is, right? I think we're at the point of the movie where it's getting a little watery. So
yeah.
No, I did not mention those, and it, these sorts of pieces, we do distribute the Mantis globally. We also do here in the States as well, depending on where you are. It's an APH product here in the United States, but certainly is relevant because it will too be running version 2.0.
Right, okay, so I am hoping that some of my audio will come through. So I'm going to test this out, and I'm hoping that the audience can just mention something on the chat to say yes or no. So just a moment whilst I'll just set this up. So I'm just going to turn on my Brailliant, and my speech is on as we speak. I'm assuming you can't hear that, Peter.
I cannot, no, I don't get it, but maybe somebody out there can. Maybe I am.
Okay, so no, so thanks Curtis, he's just confirmed no, you can't hear
Curtis
that.
says wrong.
Yeah, this is the challenge. For some reason it was working and now all of a sudden it doesn't work. So okay, we'll have to kind of switch and change audio here.
We're gonna pull the audible. So last week, for those of you who were on the Braille Note Touch Plus webinar with us, I was about 25 minutes late because everything I was doing was not working, and I had to come in on my phone and do and join on my unit itself and do all sorts of things that I just never do, because we usually try to run a pretty tight ship. So sometimes these things go sideways, especially now that we're back on the road. So hence why I'm sounding different. I'm in a hotel, and Andrew, we're doing all these things with our computers and testing equipment, and for whatever reason, he told me this morning, I don't know. I guess it's not going to work on the audio side. So we're going to hope. What he can do, though, is demonstrate what some of the playback pieces and how he's able to play DAISY, unprotected DAISY audio books as the start of our audio support. And then can you refresh everyone, Andy, on what that means? What type of DAISY files are going to play?
Right, so these are unprotected DAISY books. So these are DAISY 2.02 and DAISY 2, as well as NISO books. Now, these DAISY kind of files are quite well known in the European market, but probably not so much in the American market. However, Bookshare recently announced in a beta channel that they are releasing audiobooks. Now, providing you have set your preference to as DAISY audio, you'll be able to take advantage of that. So from Bookshare, you can actually download DAISY audio content that's unprotected and play that on your Brailliant. However, at the moment, you can't directly access the Bookshare DAISY audio sort of book list, shall we say. So currently on the Brailliant, you can download your Daisy books, okay, and they're textbooks, but you can't download Daisy audiobooks directly from your Brailliant. So the way that you'll do that is you'll download it from a different device and save that onto a USB stick or an SD card if you, of course, got the Brailliant 20X. Now, when you have those books downloaded from Bookshare, they will be in a zipped format. You will need to unzip them. Okay, so if it's not being recognized from the Victor Reader application under the books list, it's because you haven't unzipped them. So make sure that you unzip those books. It will just be a folder, and you can place that onto your USB stick and play directly from your USB stick, or if you prefer it, you can copy it from your USB stick to your internal drive. So with the audio support now, of course, we've activated the volume keys and of course the audio jack. So the audio will come through either the stereo speakers if you've got the BI40, or the mono speaker if you've got the 20, or if you plug in your 3.5mm audio jack, you can listen to the audio through your headsets. There's ways to increase and decrease the speed of the audio. So enter with .2 will decrease the audio, and enter .5 will increase the speed of the audio. So enter .5 to increase, enter .2 to decrease. We'll then have options to fast forward and rewind. So using your inner thumb keys as the audiobook is playing, you can use your right and left inside thumb keys. So these are the bigger thumb keys of the four, and that will allow you to fast forward and rewind. And the longer you leave that button held in, the further it's going to either fast forward or rewind. So very much like the Victor Reader Stream. If anyone's got a Victor Reader Stream, it's a very similar action where you press and hold that forward button, and as you hold it down longer, you'll get a prompt to say 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you can let go, and then that adjusts the playback setting. Now, you could also move by various different elements, and the navigable elements depends on the Daisy book itself. So majority of Daisy books, they're very well structured. So they'll have level 1s, level 2s. So it could be chapters, sub-chapters, and so on, pages. You'll be able to navigate forwards and backwards through those various different navigational elements using your using the common keys that you can now when you move forward and backwards through any kind of books. However, we have introduced 2 new shortcuts. And now the 2 new shortcuts, when you're reading an audiobook, if you are in the stop position, so let's say you're playing a book and you decided to pause it because there's a knock at the door, and then perhaps you wanted to go forward or backwards by a different element, you can now press space 4 and 6 or space 1 and 3. So again, think of the traditional Apex side of things. When you're navigating around on the internet, you'd use your space T to choose your navigable elements, and then space 4, 6 to take you forward, and space 1, 3 to take you back. If you are in that stop position, the thumb keys that normally take you through your navigation areas will not work, because you're actually in a dialog box. So it will just take you forward and back you through these different dialog boxes. So if you do want to jump forwards and backwards, navigating whilst it's paused, you will need to refer to those space 4, 6, space 1 and 3. Right, so I'm going to try and do a demonstration. I may have to switch the audio over, so you may not hear me speak. I may jump backwards and forwards.
I can do my best Andrew accent. I'll pretend I'm you, saying exactly what you would say.
Oh, awesome. Okay. One last piece is to start the audio, to start and stop the audio. Okay. So to start the audio, it's space with G. So that traditional Keysoft go and read. And of course, you can stop the playback by pressing space and G as well, or you can press enter and backspace. Okay. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the navigational elements and the way that you navigate around an audiobook. I'm going to demonstrate then a book that I've downloaded from Bookshare. So this was from actual Bookshare, logged into Bookshare. My preference for audio is set to Daisy. And that's a really big thing here, because if you set your preference to MP3 or just any other audio, then if you download those books, the chances are that you're probably not going to download the Daisy version of it, and it's not going to play back on your device. Hopefully going forward, we'll have a little bit more advanced with playback of audio. So hopefully we'll get to the point where we can play back other books like MP3 books and so on. But at the moment, we're only supporting the DAISY 2 and 2.02 along with the NISO audiobooks. So I'm going to switch over my audio. So I'd like you, Peter, to tell me when you can hear this.
Services.
That's pretty choppy, Andy.
Diagnostic menu.
Oh, you're
Volume.
there you go. You're on your main
17.
menu. You're on your main
Terminal.
menu. You're going. You're getting there. I
Terminal.
like this. This is like Andrew driving a race car, blindfolded, and me directing him.
Victor Reader.
There you go.
Victor Editor Stream New Generation Tutorial. USB. Victor Editor Stream using
So you're in your book list. You
keyflights.pd.
got it.
Today I'm strong. USB.
Nadia Hussain. Text copyright 2020 by Nadia Hussain. Production copyright 2020 by Hodder & Stoughton Limited. All rights reserved. For more information about our books and
Level 1. Phrase. Level 1.
authors, please visit
End of book.
Hachette Children's Group presents Today I'm Strong. Written and read by Nadia Hussain.
Today I'm strong. Level 1. Phrase. Today I'm strong.
Andrew's in the book, and what I think what he's trying to show is that you can move between your element levels here.
I love to go to school.
And yeah, he just jumped into the next
We
level.
hope you have enjoyed this unabridged
It's just hard
production.
because he
Today
can't
I'm
hear where he
strong.
is. I like it.
I'm back, Peter. Can you hear me?
I can. So we got the gist that it will play audio, but it was kind of neat.
Yeah.
We're all over the book. It's like, today I'm strong.
Exactly. So it's a short book. It was a children's book I just downloaded. Today I'm strong.
There might not be many elements there.
Yeah, exactly. So what I did is I went into the navigable elements by pressing space T. I was able to choose some elements, and I could obviously go forwards and backwards by using my outer thumb keys, or I could use my space 4-6 or space 1-3. I then paused the book, and the only way to jump forwards and backwards through that navigable elements is to use your space 4-6 and space 1-3. Because as I mentioned, once it's stopped, you are in a dialog box where you hear it say the actual book title, and as you're going forward and backwards using your outer thumb keys, it's just going forward and backwards through those different dialog boxes.
It's stuck on your levels. Yep, and we were hearing that because it was saying phrase level 1, phrase, without actually playing the book.
Exactly. If you need to go to the top of your book, it's very much the same as going to the top of your file, so space 1, 2, and 3. To your bottom of your book, space 4, 5, and 6. And as I mentioned, if you want to fast forward and rewind, it's those left and right inner thumb keys. A single press of one of those keys puts you forward or backwards by 5 seconds. But if you press and hold, then you'll get like a speech to tell you that it's 2 minutes, then 3 minutes, and 5 minutes, and so on. So the longer you press, the longer duration you'll get. So that is your audio playback. I'm now going to quickly go through some text-to-speech settings with you. Now, as I mentioned, text-to-speech will not be available on version 2. It's 2 months after the launch. I know I'm going to stress this out because 2.01 will be released after about 2 months. I'd say it's probably the NFB convention is when it's probably likely to get close.
A little after that, I think. I think we're looking a little bit. We'll have to demonstrate there, but I think it looks like it's going to be more toward the very end of July.
So perhaps, Peter, if you want to share your audio, we'll go through the text-to-speech, and I'll go through some of the meanings of those settings.
Game
Would
on.
that'd be better? So I'm going to stop my share. If you want to share your screen, and we'll talk about some of those text-to-speech settings for the last 5 minutes.
So I am going to make sure my audio is shared here. And share screen. Okay, now let me
Zoom. Meeting controls.
get back in here and mute my speech.
Speech on demand.
All right. Do you hear this, Andrew?
Speech
Yep.
on.
Awesome.
Editor.
All right.
Great stuff.
Keypad.
So I'm on the main menu, and I'm going to come into, and we'll have Andrew walk us through this, but I'm going to, to toggle your speech space with previous. So that is your thumb key that is all the way to the left. When I'm ready to look at speech settings, where do I go, Andy?
Okay, so we need to go into the options menu. So that's your space with the letter O to jump into options.
Settings.
And in the options menu, there's a new setting called speech settings.
So to get there, I can either use my next thumb key, or I can press the space bar, or I can, of course, use first letter navigation, which is what I will do here. So I'm going to press the letter S as in speech.
Speech settings.
I'm going to press enter or a cursor router key.
Speech on.
And here's where you can also toggle speech if you don't want to use your previous with space command.
And there's various of different settings within the speech settings. There's also a content voice, so it's a primary and secondary voice, which I'll go into a bit more detail in just a moment. So let's just space through the different items under your speech settings. So let's press the space bar.
Speak menu on.
So this is pretty obvious. So this is if you want your menus to be spoken. So predominantly, I'd say if you are not confident with, the device itself, maybe you've just received it and you want to explore what's available, you may want that sort of TTS feedback to have the text-to-speech read the menu list. But once you get confident, perhaps you don't want to have those menus being spoken, but you may want the content voice being spoken. And that's where we've introduced another setting under your Braille profiles. So what was called Braille profiles is now called language profiles. Okay, so under your language profiles, there will be another setting called content voice. Now your content voice, you can choose to have either up to two different voices. You've either got the English female voice, which is Sharona, which is the new voice. You've got Will, and if you Spanish or French, you can also have one of those voices as well as your secondary voice, but you can only have two voices kind of installed. All right, so you can have Will to have your content voice, and you can have maybe Sharona to read your menu voice.
Yes, you can have two English voices, one for menu, one for content. And content means your editor, your Victor reader, when you're in readable content. So think of the reading text content, that is. I'm going to press my space bar.
Speak word under cursor on.
So speak word under cursor. I really like this option. So this is, again, really if you want to have some feedback and you're learning Braille, perhaps you're in the editor or maybe you're in the Victor reader, you've come across a word in contraction and you may have not learned that contraction or that word. So you place your cursor under that word, anywhere under the word, and it will speak that word. So great feedback for, certainly if you're not confident at Braille or you're learning some contractions, this is a great feature to enable.
Speak display content after panning off.
Speak content after panning. So this would allow you, each time that you pan, it will actually speak what's available on your Braille display. So if you've got the 40 cell, if you pan with your right inner thumb keys, it will only speak what's on your Braille display. Again, for early learners, for those that just want to have full control on the speech and your Braille, this could be ideal.
Echo delete on.
So the echo delete is every time that you press your backspace and you delete characters, it will give you the audio feedback of the letter that you're deleting. So if, for example, you've got hello, each time you press backspace and your cursor's on at the very end, it will go O, L, L, E, H, and so on.
Keyboard echo, words.
Like all text-to-speech devices, you have the option of keyboard echo. So how do you like your keyboard to be echoed? So every time that you type a character, every type that you just a word, or maybe it's both characters and words. So each time you type a character, it will give you audio feedback. And then every time you press a space, it will read aloud that word. So again, you have full control on how you want your keyboard echo to be controlled.
And remember to toggle any of these settings, just use a cursor router key to turn things on or off. Or if I'm here on key echo words and I use a cursor router key.
Words. Keyboard echo.
Right,
words.
I can move that through. If I use a cursor router key, I come placed in a menu.
Words. Characters. Characters and words. Close.
Right. So you can choose where you want that.
Keyboard echo. Voice selection.
Okay, so voice selection. So let's press enter on the voice selection because we're going to be offered two options
System
here.
Voice. Sharona.
So we have a system voice, and if you press the space bar once again, Peter.
Additional voice.
You've got
Voice.
additional voices. Okay, so your system voice is dependable on what system language you've installed. So when text-to-speech becomes available, there will only be 4 voices enabled. Okay, so unfortunately, you won't have the luxury to download various different voices like you have with our Brailliant Touch. For this first version, when we release the text-to-speech, you will have English voice, you'll have a Spanish voice, or Latin Spanish that is, and then you'll have a French voice. So you'll have 2 English voices. As we mentioned, it was Sharona and Will. We have a Spanish voice and we've got a French voice. Now, if you've installed English, your default text-to-speech or your system voice will be Sharona. However, when you go to additional voices, you'll have the option to download any one of those 4 voices that I mentioned. So perhaps maybe you're learning French and you want to use your additional voice for French. So then you could go into your content voice or your language profiles, create a French profile, and then on your content voice, you can select your additional voice, which you just downloaded, which is French. So then you can switch between your various different profiles by using Enter plus L to switch between maybe your English one and then your French one and so on. So that's really important. That's how you download or change your different voices.
Close.
And that should be the last option there, Peter. So yeah, you've got to close. So just to summarize, the speech settings will be enabled after 2 months. So we'll release a new version in 2 months' time. That will allow you to select your speech options. You'll have Sharona as a default if you set yours to English. And remember the content voice that you can now select in your language profiles. You can choose between any of those 4 languages that I mentioned, or voices, 2 English, Spanish, French.
And it is important because, you know, and again, you may just want to have a content voice selected and turn off speak menus so that the only thing you're getting, the only time you even have text to speech as an option is when you're in, you know, an actual text environment, which might be something that you want to do. So there is quite a bit of customization here in terms of how you want speech to work for you.
Peter, do you just want to go into the language profile just to show where that content voice is?
So I'm going to come into my options
speech
menu,
settings.
And instead of going into speech settings, I'm going to press that letter L. So again, I press O with space to get into my options menu. Going to press the letter L to move to
language profile.
Language profile. And remember, previously this was called Braille profile, but now when we have Braille and speech, we're changing the name here to language profile. If I press enter,
English.
I have a list of profiles here.
Spanish.
So I have English, I have Spanish,
Russian.
I have Russian, just different things I've configured. But what I'm going to do is when I want to modify one of these, you can just press
add profile,
the letter
configure
C,
profile.
right? You have a configure profile option listed below any profiles you may have. When you press enter on configure profile, it's going to ask you which one you want to configure, or if you're adding a new profile, you just do it straight away. So again, you can either modify your existing profile or create a new language profile. To toggle between them, you would use enter with L if you have multiple language profiles configured. And I'm just going to press enter here on configure language profile.
English.
It's going to say, all right, Peter, which one do you want to configure? I'm just going to press enter here on English.
Profile name.
Puts me into an edit box with the profile name, which is going to stay how it is unless you're in a brand new profile. You're going to want to name it. I'm going to press my next thumb key though.
Braille grade, contracted Braille.
Again, this is saying what grade of Braille is this using? And I have it set to contracted. And later on, it's going to say, well, what does that mean? What is your contracted Braille table? So just because it says contracted, it could be contracted US or contracted UEB or contracted something else. So I'm going to use my next thumb key again.
Computer Braille table, none.
So I have my computer Braille table set to none, unless it is absolutely required. I don't like when I'm doing demonstrations and it's accidentally set to computer Braille. This was an option we introduced a couple of, I think in the last update actually, that you can set your Braille table if needed to none, so that when you use backspace with G, it's not going to throw you off.
Uncontracted Braille table.
Here's
English
my
US
uncontracted
Duxbury
table.
grade 1.
Again, if I want to set an uncontracted table, I can.
Contracted Braille table.
Here's the
English
actual
Duxbury grade
contracted
2.
Braille table. So again, just because you can toggle between uncontracted and contracted, you have to tell your unit what does that even mean? What is my uncontracted table and what is my contracted table? And then using backspace with G will move you between those.
Content voice, none.
So you hear that I have my content voice set to none, and that is when I'm in the, again, I can press enter here or change this
None. Sharona.
to Sharona
Rosa.
or Rosa, right? Because I have both of those voices enabled. I don't have a content voice because I was playing with some things, but what this means is because my content voice was set to none, if I'm in the editor, it's not going to read to me. And that could be another piece that you want. Maybe you want your menu spoken and you don't want any content spoken. You certainly can do that.
Sharona.
So
Content
here's your
voice.
content
Sharona.
voice option. Again, use your cursor router key to come into that list, pick the voice you'd like for content,
Save configuration.
and then you have a save configuration option. So again, if you have these different places, this is how you configure the language profile. And then in the speech settings is where you can say that you don't want it or do want it to speak your menus. I'm going to activate save configuration, and away we go. And now it's saved, and I'm back
English
in business with my new English profile that has the content voice enabled in this case. All right,
so
everybody.
That's it. It's bedtime
This
for
is
me.
the longest one we've ever done, Andrew.
Dinner time for you.
It
Thanks
is dinner
everyone.
time, bedtime
Thanks everyone
for
for joining us. I really appreciate that. And have a good rest of your day. And we'll definitely have to reschedule another one, Peter, won't
Yes,
we?
we will.
Definitely.
Well, we're gonna have to do something. There's still a lot more questions. So thank you for joining, everybody, and we appreciate all of you using the devices, providing feedback on the devices, giving us suggestions so we can do these webinars when we have awesome new features to talk about. So much appreciated. Hopefully, we'll see you at a summer show. Andrew's going to be at NFB if anyone's coming down. We'll have representation at ACB. We'll be at AER. We'll be all over the place. So please come say hi. We would love to see you.
Well, thanks everyone. Take care. Thanks, Peter.
Bye. See you. Thanks, Andy.